After a 3-hour neck surgery, a New York man started getting the expected bills: $56 grand for the hospital, $4,300 for the anesthesiologist, $133,000 for his orthopedic surgeon, all of which were covered by his insurance. Then came a whopping $177,000 bill from a doctor he had never heard of, and that doctor was out of his insurance network. After investigating, apparently an assistant surgeon was called in without the patient knowing to help in the surgery, and now that doctor wants to get paid. A growing problem in the medical industry: services that were once included in the daily hospital rate are now often provided by contractors, and you won't find out until the scars are healing.
So these unexpected out-of-network charges, they've become a huge complaint. In fact, the top complaint to the New York State agency that regulates insurance companies in that state. These charges can be devastating.
Yep.
They can be confusing. In many cases, it's fraud. In others, it's just poor communication between doctors, patients, insurers. And you know who often is the most out of touch? Us doctors.
Yeah, the doctors.
You know, doctors are not necessarily the ones who even know how the
we
billing
go
is
in,
taking
see the
place
patient in the hospital, fill out the chart, and then sometimes somebody else does the billing. I want to know, what kind of doctor gets billed $117,000 for one? I should have been that. I should have been that kind of doctor instead.
Well, you mentioned before yourself, you're a physician, and you went to have your exam, and all of a sudden you get this $1,400 bill, which is a big bill.
Which was a huge bill for something that
you were expecting a copay, $40 copay.
$40 copay, and it was $1,400. And really, when I called, it was interesting. So I tried to approach it like a patient. I called. This lady's on the telephone. She's kind of rude. She's like, well, you should have known we didn't accept it. I said, well, wait a minute. I presented it and asked and made sure, and everybody said it was fine. So until, and this is the sad part about the story, until I flexed a little bit and said, well, you know, by the way, my name is Dr. Rachel Ross, and I'm on this very lovely show called The Doctors, and we really talk about these fraudulent practices all the time. That was the first time I got some help on the bill.
The doctor's on the phone with you.
Getting back to the topic of getting bills from doctors you never met, I mean, you're going to get that with radiologists because they're going to get an X-ray, they're going to interpret it.
Pathologists sometimes.
Exactly. You're never going to meet your pathologist, but he examines the tissue. With a co-surgeon, typically, the surgeon should say somebody's going to be helping you, or you meet the co-surgeon. You should meet the anesthesiologist, too. That would be pretty rare.
Until we change the culture in this country, until the CEOs of these nonprofit hospitals stop making $5+ million a year and encourage their surgeons to bill and upcharge as much as possible, that culture is changing. I actually do think we are moving in the right direction. My hope, at this point in time, you have to fight for yourself. If you get a bill and you think it's negligent, false, incorrect, do whatever you need to do. Fight for your right. Oftentimes, if you do what Rachel did, not say, hey, I'm Dr. Rachel Ross, but if you fight a bill,
just everybody can
say,
I'm Dr. Rachel Ross.
But you can say, look, you know what? I'm going to write to my congressman. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this right. Most of the time, you will get a downcharge and something that's more reasonable. They will work with you if you work with them in most cases.